Okay, here we go. Continuing. This is the prosecution, the DA, still questioning Kyle after he's had his butt chewed 3 or 4 times by the judge for being an unethical, lying piece of shit. Here we go.
So you're telling us that the reason that you wanted Dominic to buy you an AR-15 as opposed to a pistol is the only reason was because you felt you couldn't lawfully possess a pistol?
Your Honor, objection. Asked and answered. He already said his original intent was to buy a long gun to go shoot trap. Why is the district attorney trying to put words in my client's mouth? Man, eat this guy. The only way this guy gets away with this is if you got a shitty defense team. Wow.
Correct.
You didn't pick out the AR-15 for any other reason?
See, now he got to ask him again, and now if he changes, well, earlier you said that you got it because you couldn't get a long gun, because his defense team is sleeping, and now he's opening a door to let his client step in some shit.
I thought it looked cool, but no.
You didn't pick it out because you wanted to go hunting with it, did you?
No.
You didn't pick it out because you were going to use it to protect your house, correct?
Correct.
You picked it out because it looked cool.
I thought it looked cool. Guess that's the reason, yes.
It resembled the types of weapons that are used in first-person shooter video games, correct?
I don't really play first-person shooter video games. I have, but I believe there's a variety of guns, including shotguns, pistols. There's guns in video games that resemble all guns.
Isn't it true when you would hang out with Dominic Black, you'd play Call of Duty and other first-person shooter video games?
Sometimes.
And those are games in which you use weapons like AR-15s to pretty much shoot anybody who comes at you, correct?
Wow. He's getting him to say that. Are you kidding me?
It's a video game where 2 players are playing together. I don't really understand the meaning of your question, to be honest.
Isn't one of the things people do in these video games try and kill everyone else with your guns?
Yeah, in the video game, it's just a video game. It's not real life.
Now, you introduced yourself as living in Walworth County right now. Is that right? On the date that this all happened, you were an Illinois resident?
Correct.
You had grown up in Illinois?
Correct.
You had not spent any significant time living here in Wisconsin, correct?
No.
You'd agree with me that's correct?
No, I'd spent time at my father's house and partially live here also, so no, that's not correct.
You indicated you had attended, was it Penn Foster High School?
Yes.
That's an online high school?
Correct.
So you were not attending high school in person?
No.
And at the time that all of the things in this case were happening, from the time the AR-15 was purchased to the night of August 25th, you were 17 years old that entire time, correct?
Correct.
Could we have exhibit number 7 up, please?
The DA wants to keep him on the stand as long as he can so he can make a mistake. You notice he's going slow. He's repeating questions, which his defense team should be objecting. He's going over the same shit. He's killing time. He wants him up there as long as he can because the odds are he's going to mess up, or the longer the testimony that he gives, the more likely we can get him confused and he will cross-testify or change his testimony, and I can go back and go, and when you said earlier, you said this, and now you're saying this. Which one was correct? Were you lying then or were you lying now? That's what he's trying to do, and it's bullshit.
Screen. Do you recognize that?
Yes, that's my old TikTok account.
That was a TikTok account that you had during the summer of 2020, correct?
Yes.
And it says your name on there, Kyle?
Yes.
Your username on TikTok was 4 Doors More Whores?
Yes.
And that's a picture of you there with your AR-15, correct?
Yes.
And underneath that, you have put on your profile the phrase, bruh, B-R-U-H, I'm just trying, T-R-Y-N-A, be famous. Is that correct?
Yes.
You're the one who wrote that.
Yes.
So now we're dropping hints to the jury that he went out and did this to be famous. He planned this. See, and because a kid puts that on a TikTok, you probably find 1,000 of those. That has no connection. But when you let the DA get you on a stand, he can twist and turn anything. Bullshit.
You testified that at some point you were involved in some sort of EMT cadet program.
I was a firefighter EMT cadet at Antioch Fire Department.
When was that?
I was a cadet at the Antioch Fire Department. I believe from 2018 or 2019 up until the incident of August 25th.
An EMT cadet is someone who's just beginning the process of eventually achieving full EMT certification. Is that correct?
No.
Were you studying to be an EMT before August 25th, 2020?
I was learning about certain things in the field of firefighting and EMS.
But that's not actually formal classes, is it?
No, we met once a week and we would either depend.
See, he's making a statement. The question should have been, have you done any formal training? And the answer would have been no or yes. But you see, when you let the DA probe this bullshit and you're not objecting, these two lawyers should be doing nothing right now but focusing on their client and waiting to object and protect him. That is their sole purpose right now, and I don't think they've objected but freaking once, and maybe only 4 times during a whole damn trial.
Depending on the day, we would either do EMT stuff like learning how to do airways, or we do firefighter stuff like doing hose drags and learning how to crawl through buildings.
And these are things that you did with the, which firefighter? Antioch Fire?
Antioch Fire Department.
You weren't a member of the fire department, were you?
I was.
You were a actual on-duty member on the roster of the Antioch Fire Department?
No.
So when you say you're a member, what do you mean?
I was a member of the Antioch Fire Cadet program. We were issued shirts, Antioch Fire Cadet member. We would help with the pancake breakfast at the VFWs, and we would wear Antioch Fire Department staff shirts. I still have one in my closet.
Maybe I didn't express myself.
Of course you didn't. And you did it on purpose so you could turn it around like you were being smart, and you tripped up a young kid and he called you on it. So now you have to, let me rephrase because you can't get it because you're too stupid and I'm smart. What a weasel.
Clearly, you were not a member of the Antioch Fire Department, correct?
I was a member of the cadet program, which was through the fire department.
So you'd go out and fight fires?
We can go on ride-alongs, but we can't go into burning buildings for liability reasons.
You'd go out there and you'd save people from burning buildings?
Not me personally.
Because as a cadet, they would never let you anywhere near that, right?
They wouldn't let any of the cadets go into an actual live fire.
Ask and answer. He already said he didn't fight fires. Why is the defense letting him get away with this bullshit?
At the end of whatever this program is, you weren't actually going to be an official.
See how he discounted the program? At the end of whatever this program is, because you're too stupid to explain it, and even though I've asked, you don't even really know. Man, what a jerk.
Firefighter, were you?
No, it's to help prepare you for the firefighter academy, firefighter EMT academy.
And you weren't going to be an EMT at the end of this program either, were you?
No.
You know that to be an EMT, you have to be 18 and a high school graduate.
Is that a statement or a question? Why don't you ask him what he knows to be an EMT?
Correct?
Depending on the state, in Illinois, you can take a class at the college at 16, and you can have your EMT license by the age of 17. I wasn't in that class, but in Illinois, you can.
You never did any of that?
No, I was online school.
the night of August 25th, you're here in Kenosha, Wisconsin, saying you're an EMT, correct?
Yes.
That was a lie.
Yes.
You were also telling people you...
See, that he should have been briefed on that. You know that question was coming. They should have told him when he brings up that you said an EMT, you were not lying. You were merely using a common phrase that was easy recognizable by people that needed help. You know, you couldn't say, I'm a volunteer fire department at so that wouldn't be reasonable, would it? Come on, freaking defense. You guys suck.
You were 18 or 19 years old. That was a lie too, right?
No, I didn't tell anybody my age that night.
You never volunteered it at all, did you?
I didn't.
Because you knew as a 17-year-old you shouldn't have been
Your Honor, he can't tell me what I knew. Ask the question.
there, right?
No, I just didn't find it relevant to give my name. Well, I gave my name, but my age to anybody. It wasn't something that came up in conversation.
It's because you felt if people found out how old
Your Honor, he's testifying how he felt. How does he know how he felt? What the fuck, people? Jesus.
you were, they'd realize you shouldn't have been there, right?
No, it just because it didn't come up in conversation. If somebody would have asked, I would have been like, yeah, I'm 17.
So you felt that as a 17-year-old, it was appropriate for you to be out on the streets of Kenosha with an AR-15 that night. Fair?
I believe I had any other right to be there as anybody else.
As any other adult.
As anybody.
But you weren't an adult.
No.
I actually think he was more of an adult than most of the people out there. Your Honor, he's using the term adult. Is he going for the legal term of adult or responsibility and who was doing? Because there was a lot of looters out there that were adults, and he's not questioning that. He's questioning my client on what an adult is. Perhaps the DA can define what an adult is. Again, these objections would be bullshit. He may not win, but he breaks it and he gets information on what the game is. He's exposing the DA to the jury.
You indicated that you were working at the Recplex and had been working at the Y before that. Is that right?
Yes.
That was a YMCA down in Illinois, correct?
Correct.
And you had gotten furloughed there when COVID hit in March?
Yes.
And you had only started working at the Recplex on August 14th, correct?
I believe I got hired before that, but I was on vacation on August 14th, so I couldn't. I was on vacation, so I couldn't start until August 14th.
Your first time working at the Recplex was on August 14th, correct?
I believe that was my first day.
He's asking that because they subpoenaed the records and they wanted proof. Again, they did their background. That's what they're supposed to do. But...
And then you worked the week after that from August 17th to August 23rd, correct?
I believe so. Till August 24th I worked.
And then your final shift was on August 24th, correct?
Yes.
You worked a total of 41 and a half hours at the Recplex, correct?
That's the number you got?
And you were a lifeguard.
Yes.
You were walking around their swim area with one of those red, long, life-saving things, monitoring the pool, correct?
Rescue tube, yes.
Okay. So, but that was at the indoor pool at the Recplex?
It was at the indoor. It was at the. I don't know if you're familiar with the Recplex.
I am.
I guarded the water park area and the competition pool.
Okay. So they've got a water park area with a slide and a zero-entry pool. Is that right?
Yes.
And then next to that, they've got a larger, almost Olympic-sized pool where swim meets happen.
50-meter competition pool divided in half to make it a 25.
Okay, and you were lifeguarding at both of those.
I would rotate. We had rotations, and me and other guards, we would do 3.
he's really being a good witness. He's not getting defensive. And every time he asks a question trying to trick him up, he's pretty articulate. I mean, for an 18-year-old kid, he is doing a really good job. With no freaking help from his defense team, I might add.
We had 3-person shifts. We would rotate out watching the different areas of our zones.
You indicated that at no time did this gun, this AR-15, ever leave the state of Wisconsin. Is that right?
Other than the night after, other than that.
Before the shootings.
Correct.
There was a time, though, where you wanted to have it with you down in Illinois, isn't it? It wasn't there?
I don't remember. See, this is where a good witness will not allow him to make you guess and say things. All these questions are to get him to guess or try to appease him so he can go, I got you.
I believe there was a time when me and Dominic were mad at each other. Yeah.
You were mad at Dominic?
Me and Dominic.
See, he just was able to explore, and now he gets to go further because he's not savvy enough not to give this guy any leeway. I don't remember. I'm not sure what your question is. Do you have a specific thing that you're talking about that can tell me what you're asking? I don't understand the question.
Dominic were mad over something.
And you wanted to have the gun with you down there?
I think I said something along those lines.
You'd agree with me that
you're a dick? Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Let me back up for a second here. You have testified to this jury that you used deadly force against Joseph Rosenbaum, Anthony Huber.
See, he's going back to the part that he got good answers. And then he connected it with the jury by saying, you testified to this jury. See how he's connecting things for his case? And you see how the defense doesn't? The defense gets up there, isn't that true? Yeah, great. I got a good answer. I got a good question. Let me sit down. You freaking idiots.
The man who attempted to kick you in the face and Gage Grosskreutz on the night of August 25th, correct?
Yes.
And you did that because you felt that your life was in danger from those four people, correct?
Yes.
And you are telling this jury that it was, in your mind, justified to use deadly force to protect your own life, correct?
Yes.
Oh, that's a pretty good statement. I'm glad he said that. He phrased it better than he did.
You'd agree with me that you were not allowed to use deadly force to protect that CarSource building, correct?
Well, I wasn't using deadly force to protect the property.
Good for him. Don't agree with him and don't give him an answer. Good for him.
I used deadly force to protect myself, so.
Please listen to my question.
See? Let me scold him. Your Honor, he answered the question. If he wants to rephrase, he can. He needs to stop telling my client to listen to his questions when he's listening. The defense is leaving this kid out to hang, and they aren't defending him at all. It's so bullshit.
And answer my question if you can.
See the nodding, the submissive, the scolding, the inference to the jury that this kid doesn't know how to answer questions and he's trying to avoid and he's sneaky and he knows what I want. And I have to explain things to him because he's stupid and he should have a gun.
You'd agree with me that you were not allowed to use deadly force to protect that CarSource building, correct?
Yes.
You'd agree with me that you were not allowed to use deadly force to stop someone from smashing the windows of an unoccupied parked car, correct?
I don't think you could use deadly force for that.
You'd agree with me that you can't use
I'm glad he's not saying I agree. I'm glad he's speaking out. Good for him.
deadly force to stop someone from lighting a metal dumpster on fire, correct?
Correct.
Your Honor, my client's already testified that he used deadly force to protect himself. Come on, dude!
You'd agree with me that you can't use deadly force to stop someone from tipping over a porta potty, correct?
Correct.
You'd agree with me that you can't...
See, he's getting him to say, see this routine? This quick questioning, this quick answer? He's giving him the easy stuff. And then he zaps him when he makes him feel comfortable. That's a common ploy when you're on the stand.
Can't use deadly force to stop someone from lighting a flatbed trailer on fire, correct?
Correct.
You'd agree with me.
Your Honor, is he going to have him agree that you can't use deadly force on the moon? He already said he used deadly force to defend himself. Can you have the DA move on? Come on, defense!
That you can't use deadly force to stop someone who is about to start an unoccupied car on fire, correct?
Correct.
You'd agree with me that you can't use deadly force to stop someone from lighting some traffic cones in the middle of the street on fire, correct?
Correct.
So you understand that there's a difference between using deadly force to protect yourself and using it to protect property, correct?
Oh, see how smart he is? See how he cleared that up? See how intelligent he is to the jury now? I hope the jury sees through this bullshit.
Yes.
And you'd agree with me that you're not allowed to use deadly force to protect property, correct?
Yes.
Then why did you bring a gun when you were just protecting property? Here it comes.
But yet you have previously indicated that you wished you had your AR-15 to protect someone's property, correct?
I'm going to ask you to go into the library again for a moment, please. Please don't talk about the case.
You freaking little weasel. If the freaking defense would be objecting when they should. Look at this guy. Oh, shit.
Mr. Richards. Mr. Richards.
Your Honor, Mr. Binger is either forgetting the court's rulings or attempting to provoke a mistrial in this matter. He knows he can't go into this, and he's asking the questions. I asked the court to strongly admonish him, and the next time it happens, I'll be asking for a mistrial with prejudice. He's an experienced attorney, and he knows better.
Mr. Binger.
First of all, Your Honor, this was the subject of a motion. I'm well aware of that. And the court left the door open.
It's not, let me give you a tip for any of you DAs out there. It's not a good way to defend yourself when you start telling the judge what he did and didn't do. But let's see if the judge will spank his ass, which I hope he does.
For me, not for you.
Yes! You go, boy! That's my man right there! Yeah! Good! You know what? I wish he would declare a mistrial right now. I hope he gets him pissed off and he says, I'm going to grant a mistrial. That is a huge slam to the DA's office. They got to put all this money, they got to redo, but now they have his testimony. But, oh my God, man, this is freaking great.
This was the subject of a motion. I'm well aware of that.
See the condescending, ignoring the judge? You don't look away when you're talking to the judge. That's disrespectful. And he's getting away with it. He thinks he owns this fucking place.
And the court left the door open.
For me, not for you.
My understanding of
You should have come and asked for reconsideration. You did on the one motion, and in fact, I granted your motion for reconsideration.
That was not our motion.
Excuse me. I did. I granted.
We did not move
that
to
was
reconsider.
their motion.
We have not filed
forgive
any
me.
motions to reconsider in this case.
That was their motion for reconsideration, which I denied. But I said I denied it, or I indicated a bias towards denial is what I did. Held it open with a bias towards denial. Why would you think that that made it okay for you, without any advance notice, to bring this matter before the jury? I was astonished when you began your examination by commenting on the defendant's post-arrest silence. That's basic law. It's been basic law in this country for 40 years, 50 years. I have no idea why you would do something like that. And it gives, I'll leave it at that.
It gives them a right to appeal.
May I respond?
I'll leave it at that. So I don't know what you're up to.
May I respond?
Yes.
We filed an other acts motion on this exact issue because, in my mind, and I argued this, it is identical to what was going on the night of August 25th, in the sense that the defendant was using this exact same weapon. He was using it in a manner to try and protect property.
No, he wasn't.
Your Honor, with all due respect...
I'm not going to rehash the motion. That's absolutely untrue. No. Your arguments of record, my comments are of record, and why I ruled as I did is of record. There's nothing that I heard in this trial to suggest anything's changed, even if you're correct in your assumption that you know more than I did at the time. You should have come to the court and say, I want to go into this. Why you would think that you could go into it without any advance notice to the court, I don't understand that. And as the defense is pointing out, you're an experienced trial lawyer, and this should not have been gone into.
Your Honor, there have been things in this case, testimony in this case, that I believe opens the door to this. For example, the defense has introduced evidence that the defendant pointed a gun at a man wearing yellow pants because that person was on a car on the car source lot. Now, there's no justification that I can think of why the defendant would point that gun at someone. The defendant has just testified this morning that he agreed with that person in the yellow pants, that he pointed the gun at him. He said, I was joking when I said that to the guy in the yellow pants, but he said, he's acknowledged that he told the person in the yellow pants, yeah, you're right. I did point a gun at you when you were sitting on a car.
He said, I did. That's what he
Exactly.
testified.
So he's agreeing. May I finish, please? I'd like to have a chance to make a record if I could, without being interrupted, if that's okay.
See, this is what happens when you have DAs that are totally unaccountable. This is what happens when you have cops that are totally unaccountable. They think the rules don't apply to them. They can do what they want, and they get this arrogant in your face, and how dare anybody ever question him. Dude, I wish this freaking judge would mistrial this shit. I'd laugh my ass off.
He has mentioned that he's acknowledged that he's used this gun to protect property. He's also just acknowledged that he knows he can't do that. I am attempting to impeach him now with the prior August 10th incident, 15 days prior, involving the same gun, where he is threatening to use that gun to protect property. It goes...
He had the gun with him.
Your Honor, he is saying he wished he did so he could shoot people.
You know, there's a lot of difference between commenting about something when you haven't got a gun and threatening someone when you do.
You know, it's interesting, Your Honor, because the entire defense theory in this case is Joseph Rosenbaum, who was unarmed.
I want you to tell me what the defense theory of the case is. I want...
May I respond to what you just said, Your Honor? I'd like to respond to what you just said.
Slow down, please.
I apologize, Madam Court Reporter, but I'd like to try and make a record without anyone interrupting me, if that's okay.
This is so disrespectful to the judge. This is perfect. Dude, I hope the judge freaking... Look, this attorney right now pretty much has a mistrial if he wants to. If he steps on his PP one more time and this guy jumps up in front of the jury and says, Your Honor, mistrial, I think the judge will grant it. Oh my God, what a jerk. I hope the judge sanctions him also and files a complaint on him. I don't know why the judge ain't held him in contempt. You interrupt me again, and your ass will be taken out of here in handcuffs. How about that? Do we agree on that on the law, Mr. DA? Oh my God.
Believe that there is a central part of this case that Mr. Rosenbaum is making threats that he has no ability to carry out. So, to your point, Your Honor, you're arguing that this August 10th incident, one aspect of why you don't believe it's relevant is the defendant didn't have the gun with him. This case is about someone who didn't have a weapon, and yet the jury is being told because of those threats, that means the defendant has to defend himself. So, with all due respect, Your Honor,
this is lawyer double talk. He's trying to confuse issues. He's making it up as he goes. This wasn't a plan. He tried to subvert the order or not to bring it up, and now he's trying to justify it and make it legal. He's doing the same shit to this judge that he does to people on the stand. Hopefully the judge won't fall for it.
mere verbal threats have already been shown to this jury and used as a basis for someone's subsequent actions. I am attempting with the defendant to use his mere verbal threat on August 10th, 15 days prior, that he's going to shoot shoplifters with his AR-15 to impeach the defendant in a murder trial. I would ask the court's forbearance to do that. I apologize, Your Honor. You're right. I probably should have brought this to your attention earlier. I may have misunderstood your ruling.
Oh my God, look at this freaking weasel. If he was any more slimy, he'd be coming out of a whale's ass. Are you kidding me? I apologize. I must have misunderstood, and I should have... What a freaking condescending weasel.
Because I thought your ruling was, if the evidence in this case made that more relevant, you would admit it, or at least consider it its an admittance. I believe, based on the evidence that we've heard, and more specifically, exactly what the defendant said earlier about admitting pointing a gun at someone who was merely jumping or sitting on a car, that the door is open now to this testimony. And I continue to believe that his state of mind, his intent, his belief as to self-defense is the core of this case. That was the basis for my motion. You were strongly inclined against it. I understand that. But now we're in the middle of trial, and there's been a lot of evidence that's come in.
This judge is just waiting. All right, talk your shit, because I get the final word. Go ahead.
That I think makes this relevant. So I'm attempting to impeach the defendant on his beliefs. I believe I'm entitled to impeach the defendant on his beliefs and on his statements.
I'm going to interrupt you now because you're talking about his beliefs. I think that's what they call...
His statements to, Your Honor. Because he just said, can't use deadly force, can't threaten to use deadly force to protect property. So now I'm impeaching him on that.
Your Honor, the court has seen no reason to change its ruling. And just so this record is clear, in spite of the lengthy statement by Mr. Binger, before we started today, the court specifically stated in Mr. Binger's presence, there's been nothing to have me change any of my rulings. There have been numerous occasions during this trial where they've opened the door. The one time when they're going into Mr. Rosenbaum's prior reason he doesn't like guns, and I said something, I whispered in Mr. Krause's ear, it's because of the prior convictions. Please stop. And he did. He knows if you're going to go into something that's been excluded in a pretrial order, you better ask the court, you better get permission. This is ridiculous.
It wasn't excluded, Your Honor.
You know why it was excluded in the first place? Because it was propensity evidence. That is exactly what 90404 is designed to prevent. You're talking about his attitudes. His attitude is he wants to shoot people. Now, I've admitted that kind of evidence in other trials when it's been appropriate. I didn't admit it in this case because, to me, what I've heard in this trial, and by the way, Mr. Richards absolutely correctly points out that just hours ago, I said I had heard nothing in this trial to change any of my rulings. So why?
Testimony, Your Honor.
Pardon me?
That was before the
Don't
defense testimony.
get brazen with me.
Get him, Judge! Put a knot in his ass! Dude, this attorney is... Man, I'm almost wondering if he wants a mistrial because he screwed up the case so bad. Wow.
You knew very well. You know very well that an attorney can't go into these types of areas when the judge has already ruled without asking outside the presence of the jury to do so. So don't give me that. That's number one. Number two, this is propensity evidence. I said at the time that I made my ruling, and I'll repeat again now for you, I see no similarity between talking about wishing you had your AR gun, which you don't have, so that you could fire rounds at these thought to be shoplifters, and the incidents in these...
Did I miss that part where shoplifters were brought up and he did that? I don't remember any of that.
Cases, which are not... There's nothing in your case that suggests the defendant was lying in wait to shoot at somebody or reflecting upon the shooting for a vast amount of time. Every one of the incidents involves matters that involve seconds in time. So I commented at the time, I don't see the similarity, and I don't see the similarity now. If it's...
The judge is having to calm himself down because he doesn't want to come off too biased and chew him out too much. But he wants to have his ass. So the judge is regrouping right now, and I've seen this before, where a judge wants to lose it. Sometimes a judge will just go, we need a break, and he'll go do it, and then he'll come back and do what he did. He didn't ask for a break, but he's like, all right, I got to chill out. I'm on the bench. I'm supposed to be non-biased. Even though this little punk's pissing me off, I got to try and appear non-biased.
It's not similar. That's the whole rule. Those are all the exceptions to 90404. Check the authorities. Wigmore and evidence. Judge Weinstein. Colonel McCormick. It's the prior act has to bear the signature of the accused, or it has to be so similar as to suggest it's a common plan or something like that. You have an incident where he's making comments about some alleged shoplifters versus crimes that involve instantaneous actions, whether premeditated murder or whether self-defense, that's for the jury to decide. But I don't see the similarity. I said it couldn't come in, and it isn't coming in. no matter what you think. Number two, I have to be concerned that with what Mr. Richards has said about the progress of the trial, and when you were I said you were over the line, close to or over the line on commenting on the defendant's pretrial silence, which is a well-known rule. I'm astonished that would have been an issue.
Sanction his ass. Put him in contempt.
So I don't want to have another issue as long as this case continues. Is that clear?
It is.
Thank you. Ask the jury to come back in, please.
That's a little bit of a spanking, but guess what? Who thinks the DA is worried about repercussions? He's not. Who thinks the DA is worried? I'll let this play while they're coming in. Who thinks the DA is worried about, does this affect his job or his pay? He's not. There's no repercussions for these out-of-control district attorneys. They are pretty much, they have immunity. They can't be charged criminally. The only one that can hold them accountable is a judge. And that's all he gets is a ass chewing? If he wins the case because he confuses one juror or changes their opinion with his bullshit games and lies, he gets the win for the case. I mean, now the only thing is the judge could override a case if he thinks they convict him over some bullshit. I hope he says, I admonish the DA, he's going in areas that I've already ruled on, it's not appropriate, and it shouldn't happen again, and I apologize. Hopefully he does that to the jury. I think he should have let the defense have another bite at the apple for what they want done. Because you broke my ruling. Here's what I'm planning on doing. Defense, are you okay with that, or do you want more? He could have done something like that. Where's the music? Or where's...
Thank you, Judge. So, I want to turn your attention to the day of August 25th, 2020.
Okay.
You had spent the night at Dominic Black's house, is that right?
Yes.
And you indicated that you had worked at the Recplex the night before, is that right?
The 24th, correct.
Okay. And you worked until about 7 p.m.?
I couldn't give you an exact time, but I'd say I got off around between 6 and 7. I don't recall. It's been a while.
And
good. See, the DA is trying to get him to say specifics so he can say, you testify. So he's doing a great job at being, I don't remember specific, so that's a good answer.
then you drove your car over to Dominic's house?
Yes.
Okay, so the rest of the time it seems like you're being driven around in Mr. Black's car. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Why did you guys use his instead of yours, if you know?
At the time I didn't have a driver's license, and I would drive just to get to work and sometimes to go to Dominic's dad's house.
See, he got out that he's driving around a license. He doesn't believe in the law. He does all kind of, damn, that's a bad answer. He should have said, I don't know. See, he wasn't brief good. An experienced guy would have never admitted to breaking the law again.
House.
So even though you didn't have a driver's license, you
Here you go. Now he gets to capitalize on that. Shit.
drove from your home in Antioch to the Recplex to work that day?
Yes, to be able to get to work.
And then after work, you drove without a driver's license to Dominic Black's house?
Yes.
So I assume then on the week prior to that, when you drive yourself to work, that was also without a driver's license?
Objection to this.
What's going on?
I'll move on.
Good. See, that's what the defense is supposed to do. He's already asked and answered. Move on. Why do you keep letting him badger and ask the same question 15 ways, making your client look bad?
So you drove to Mr. Black's house, you left your car there,
Yes.
and you spent the night at his house.
Yes.
And then the next day, you guys woke up at some point and came down to Ruther. Is that right?
Spent the night at his house and had dinner. Woke up in the morning.
you're going to notice the DA is going to throw in every chance he gets that you drove, you drove. He can't redo it, but he can keep saying you drove and other questions and subliminally get it into the jury. Remember, he doesn't have a driver's license. Remember, he didn't have a driver's license. He drove everywhere. And in his closing, he'll be saying, Mr. Rittenhouse obviously has no regard for the law. He runs around and tells people he's an EMT. He runs around and buys a gun that he's supposed to have. He drives around everywhere without a license. You heard him say several times he drove all these places without a license. That's how the closing is going to sound.
I brought this. We were going through I was on social media and we saw the damage, and we saw the car store, so we decided to go downtown.
And you came down in Dominic's car.
Correct.
And you said that there was a time in which you were cleaning graffiti at Ruther.
Yes.
And then at some point, I believe you said, and I want to make sure I'm understanding the timeline here.
You don't want to understand. He says that. See, he says it to set up like he's trying to be a good guy and get the facts right, when in fact, it's just a setup. He knows.
That you went to one of the car sources and encountered the owners, Sam or Sal. Or
See how he totally downplayed and made it look like, and you said you kind of one of them and Sal or somebody. It wasn't really clear. He's misrepresenting the facts and evidence.
Whoever they are, correct?
Yes.
Which of the car source locations was that?
It was the car source right here.
And that's the one at the northeast corner of 59th and Sheridan?
Correct.
And that's the one that had gotten totally burned out on one of the previous nights?
Yes, that was the one where everything was destroyed. The other car sources still had cars there. So.
Now, before that, had you ever worked at Car Source before?
I have not.
Had you ever bought a car there before?
I have not.
Had you ever even heard of Car Source before all that?
Yes.
Through Dominic?
Well, no. I would drive past it on a daily basis. I was in Kenosha almost every day.
Oh, shit. He just said, I'll drive by it. So you were driving all this time without a license? Shit. That's just a hanging fruit every time he can grab it.
And I drive down Sheridan Road almost every day.
Okay. So you saw the business along with the churches and the Ultimate gas station and the courthouse and everything else in that area?
Yes.
Okay. And you talked to these owners yourself?
Me and Dominic did.
And did they ask you to come protect the property?
Your Honor, asked and answered. He's already testified that he was there, he was with him. I mean, come on, defense.
They didn't ask me
Directly?
They didn't ask me directly. They asked Nick Smith.
Okay. And was Nick Smith around for that at that moment?
He wasn't there when me and Dominic were talking to them.
Did you ever personally witness any of these Car Source folks, Sal or Sam or any of the folks that were running that business, did you ever personally witness them ask Nick Smith to guard any of their properties?
No.
Did you ever witness any of them ask anyone to guard any of their properties?
Not that I can recall.
What time, if you recall, did you find out that they'd asked Nick Smith?
See, what also is going on in the background, and I know I'm interrupting a lot because this is an important witness and they're playing a lot of games. His dragging this out and asking and going all these other places, this guy back here is documenting everything he testified to and trying to find holes, trying to find somewhere on what he's saying now is different than what he said earlier. How can we trip? His main job is to do that. So he, by stalling and asking these irrelevant questions over and over because the defense is asleep and being a bunch of dumbasses, he is stalling and giving this guy more time to find any minor inconsistency, confusion, misstatement so he can come back. Before he finishes, he's going to go back to this guy and go, pss, 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 and they're going to get a much more questions and the I got yous. That's what he's buying time for in this irrelevant bullshit, lagging out, dragging, asking questions, saying because the defense is allowing him to do it. Really, really bad on the defense.
I believe I said in my direct examination between 3:15 and 3:30.
And that was shortly after you had sent a text to Sam, right?
Correct.
And you texted him and asked him if you could protect his business that night, correct?
I did.
And in that text you said, I'm more than willing and will be armed, correct?
Yes.
You meant you'd be armed with your AR-15?
Yes.
And you said
No, I meant that I'd have my 2 arms with me. Freaking idiot.
that me and my brother would both be there armed, correct?
Yes.
By your brother you meant Dominic?
Yes.
He's obviously not legally your brother.
No.
And you said in the text,
Implying he's lying about everything. He calls things that aren't true.
I just need address. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Why did you need the address of a location you'd already been to?
I just wanted to like pinpoint it on the Google Maps because GPS, because with all the roads were closed down in Kenosha. I just wanted to know the best route to drive there with Dominic.
Great answer. Great. See, the DA is just fishing. He's looking to get this guy to misspeak or to say something. He's being a really good witness.
But you just told us that you drove past here every day up and down Sheridan. Why did you
Misstates the evidence. Well, maybe he did say every day.
need GPS to help you find a place that you drive past every day?
Just because I drive past a place, I don't know the address. I drive past many places. I go to Walmart. I don't know the address to Walmart.
The roads weren't closed when I drove past them every day.
But you still knew where you were going, right?
Sort of, but with like the back roads.
Okay, so let's talk about the roads being closed. What do you mean by that?
See? He's just fishing. What?
Well, Sheridan Road was closed off, and I'm trying to remember. I don't think there were a lot of roads closed off. I couldn't tell you exactly their names right now.
Was that because there was construction going on?
No, they were closed off because of the riots.
They were closed off to keep people out of the area, right?
To keep rioters out of the area, not people defending their property. And, well, I don't know even if he says that. So you were defending property. See, I mean, when you get into these little conversations and he gets you talking, it's so easy to say the wrong word and they will pounce on it. I don't recall. I don't know. Can you be more specific? What exactly is your question? Those are all phrases that experienced people on the stand know how to say. This kid doesn't. He's young.
Yes.
And you knew there was a curfew that night, right?
Objection, Your Honor. They've dropped the curfew charge because the curfew was illegal. From what I was told, they dropped the curfew charge on him because it wasn't a lawful curfew. The defense is perfectly and should be objecting, Your Honor, the curfew has been dropped because it wasn't lawful. Even if they lose the objection, object in front of the jury and help your client. The DA does not want to have a bunch of objections sustained. And the odds are the more you object, the more will be sustained. And you get to say, even if they're not sustained, you still get the message to the jury. Object to just communicate with the jury if you have to. In my mind, there may be some attorneys here. Oh, you can't do that. That's, yeah, you can't do a whole bunch of freaking things that the DA's doing. And nothing happens.
I believe I got an emergency alert text at around 8 p.m.
Just like everybody else saying, stay off the streets.
I'm sorry.
Objection.
He can't testify to what everyone else got. Good.
There's no curfew charge.
It's
Oh, finally he got it. Finally he said no curfew charge. Thank you. Now he's going to say, Your Honor, I wasn't questioning him on the thing. I was questioning on the fact of whether he knew and he had knowledge or some shit. Watch him.
still relevant to his decision making. Just like everybody else, you got a message saying, get off the streets at 8 o'clock.
Objection, Your Honor. Is the DA implying that he knows everybody in the county got a text? Is that what he's implying? Make this DA look like the ass he is, or he's going to keep being an ass and beating up your client.
That night, right?
Yes.
And despite that message, you came down, correct?
I was already in Kenosha downtown when I got that message.
Once you got that message, you didn't decide, I'm going to leave and go home like I'm supposed to, correct?
I stayed at the car source.
And you knew that
See, if he was smart, he'd say, I took the text as they wanted to keep the rioters and protesting down. I wasn't out there to riot and protest. I was out there to stop fires and to give people aid. So in my mind, the text was for the rioters that were burning and doing their crimes.
There was this curfew in place that meant you shouldn't be there anymore, correct?
There were, I'd say, hundreds, if not thousands, of other people there that night that also got the same message.
So if they're all breaking the law, you can too?
Objection, Your Honor. It wasn't a law because they dropped the charges. If it was a law, they would be charging my client, and they've dropped it. Come on, defense! What the hell?
I don't think the curfew was really being enforced.
So if a law is not being enforced, you can disregard it?
Your Honor.
It's argumentative.
Made him move on again. See, I just can't believe how much they're letting this DA get away with.
You said that there was a time in which Nick Smith asked you guys to drive him down to Chicago
Correct.
to buy a piece of...
I'm wondering if the DA knows this toward the end of the day, and he's trying to drag this out so he can get Kyle tomorrow back on the stand and not end. And that way, he can have all night and all his crews working 8 hours to discredit him. That's the problem with putting your client on at the end of the day or the late of the day. He could have said, Your Honor, I want to call my client, but I'd like to call him in the morning. It's going to take a while. And that way you prevent giving the prosecution the ability to go back all night with all their investigators and all their resources and have 15 people trying to trip this kid up versus making the DA cross-examine him on the information he has in front of him. That's a calculated decision that should have been considered. And now the more I'm looking at it, because I'm looking at the time down here, I'm wondering if he's trying to drag this out so he can say, I'm not finished and I need him in the morning. And then they'll have all night to come up with shit to beat this kid up. Bad tactics.
piece of body armor?
Bad tactics for the defense, not the prosecution. I'll go back because I'm not sure where they're at.
Nick Smith asked you guys to drive him down to Chicago
Correct.
to buy a piece of body armor
Correct.
down by O'Hare.
Correct.
And you guys were willing to do that at first.
Dominic was willing to do it.
Your Honor, he interrupted my client. He told my client not to interrupt him. He just interrupted my client. Can he make his question and let my client answer? Those are the objections to where you show what an asset is and you give this piece of shit some of the shitty dishes out. And instead the defense is over there wondering what they're going to freaking eat for dinner.
It was more of Dominic's thing because Nick Smith was going to give throwing like $20 to Dominic when he bought it for like gas.
So Nick Smith was going to pay $20 for the gas to drive down to O'Hare where Nick Smith was planning on buying this body armor.
Yes.
And he needed that body, the idea was the body armor would be used that night, correct?
I believe so.
That's why there was some urgency about going down right away, right?
Yeah.
This was part of the plan to come down to downtown that night, right?
He
I don't
wanted
understand
to
your
go
question.
to O'Hare to buy the body.
It's very reasonable for a witness to get confused, especially when you have a dick DA, to say, I don't understand your question. Can you be more specific? Can you restate? I mean, the defense team could be challenging him, but they're leaving this kid out. And he's doing a good job. But if you give this DA leeway, he's eventually going to find a hole.
He wanted to go to O'Hare to buy the body armor, so yes.
Do you understand my question?
Can you rephrase
Sure,
it?
absolutely.
Sure, absolutely. I'm a really nice guy. You freaking piece of shit.
The urgency to get that body armor that day was because he needed it for that night, right?
Well, I wouldn't say he needed it, but he wanted it.
And instead of making the drive, you gave that your own body armor to Nicholas Smith.
Correct.
You had it along with you.
Yes.
You brought it along with you that day because you thought you might need it yourself that night, correct?
No, I kept it in my trunk of the car. I always had it.
You drive around with body armor in the trunk of your car regularly?
Oh my God. See, every time you volunteer new information, they're going to use it against you. When you're on a stand, you don't give the attorney a place to go. You don't understand, you give a yes or no, you give what you know, and you keep it to a minimum. So now he's got the kid driving around without a license, and he's driving around with body armor because he wants to go out and kill people. I mean...
Well, it was just in the back of my trunk. I never really took it out.
And you said at some point that day you went to Jelinski's. That's the hunting goods, fishing store out on Highway 31 and 52nd Street to buy a couple of slings. Is that right?
That's correct.
And this was one sling for you and one for Dominic, right?
Yes.
And you bought...
You notice he's repeating everything he said on direct so he can explore and drag out and find a hole on every single statement that this kid said on the stand. Now, I'll give him this. He's doing a good job. His job, if he was doing it for the right reason and a good cause. This prosecution shouldn't be going on. This guy's just a weasel. He's unethical weasel. He's a liar. He's been shitting on the judge. He's been shitting on the trial. He's been shitting on the witnesses. He tried to intimidate a witness. So this guy is absolutely a piece of shit. That's pretty well established for anybody watching. So you don't give this guy leeway. You are on him as a defense attorney every chance you get. And this defense isn't doing it.
Two of the identical type of sling, correct?
Yes, the cheapest ones they had.
And that's a single point sling, meaning it attaches to the gun in one location, correct?
Yes.
And then it wraps around your body, correct?
Yes.
And it's designed to help you retain possession of that weapon, correct?
You'd probably know more about them than I do. I just got it to hold the rifle, so when I'm doing medical aid, I don't have to sit on the ground and have to worry about it being stolen.
Because you realize that you couldn't have that gun on you while you're doing any sort of medical aid, correct?
I knew that I couldn't, without a sling, have it on me. That's why I got the sling, so I could have my hands free.
But even when you had the sling, there was a time in which you took off your entire gun apparatus and handed it to Joanne Fiedler because it was in the way of you trying to treat someone, right?
At that instance, yes, because it was hitting the ground. The rifle was hitting the ground. When I bought it, that was the purpose of it. I don't think it really worked, now that I think of it.
This big, long AR-15.
Big, long AR-15. Too bad your wife's never said that. Anyway, go ahead.
Really got in the way whenever you tried to help someone, right?
Sometimes.
If you had a handgun, for example, you could have been...
Your Honor, he's already testified that he wasn't allowed to carry a handgun. That's why he had a long gun. The DA is misrepresenting facts and evidence.
It would have been physically more easy for you to try and treat someone. Fair?
If I could have legally carried a handgun, I would have carried a handgun.
But you couldn't legally carry a rifle, and you couldn't legally drive, and you drove. And you couldn't legally go be out there because of the curfew, and you did. He could really eat him up here. I don't know if he'll catch it.
Instead of a rifle.
You grabbed some medical supplies from Dominic Black's house before you came downtown that night, correct?
I grabbed extra gauze, but that's about it.
Damn, what's in the background there? Damn, look at those stockings for court.
You testified earlier that your AR-15 was loaded with 30 rounds of ammunition. Is that right?
Yes.
Where did that ammunition come from?
That was from our last trip up north, from May, the time we took it up north.
So when the gun was left at Dominic Black's house, it had that ammunition with it?
The ammo was in a box, magazine, I don't really know.
When you were at Dominic Black's house on August 25th, you found that AR-15 downstairs in his basement.
I'm absolutely convinced now he's going to drag this out so he gets a second bite at the apple at this kid tomorrow. He is going to keep going and just run diarrhea at the mouth to run the clock out so they'll release the jury and come back.
Basement, correct?
No.
Where did you find it at?
Oh.
On August 25th. You found that AR-15 downstairs in his basement, correct?
No.
Where did you find it at?
It was downstairs in the basement, but I was told by Dominic Black, hey, go downstairs, grab your rifle.
So you knew up until that point that rifle was being stored in a gun safe in the garage, correct?
Correct.
And you didn't have the code or any access to that gun safe, correct?
I did not.
It just happened that on this particular day, Dominic Black's stepfather had moved that gun into the house, correct?
I thought somebody already testified because there was riots and everything. The guns were sitting around the house in case the riots came to their area. I thought I heard that somewhere. Of course, the defense probably wasn't paying attention.
Yes.
You didn't know that beforehand?
I didn't.
You didn't know that it had been taken out of the safe?
No.
And so you went downstairs and grabbed it.
After instructed to do so by Dominic, I did.
And it had that magazine?
After I was instructed to do so. After I was instructed to do so by Dominic, I did go downstairs and grab it.
And it had the magazine already inserted in the rifle?
It did.
And the magazine was already loaded with 30 rounds?
I believe so.
When did you chamber a round?
I don't know if I ever did.
Well, you had to have to fire the gun, right?
Not if it was already loaded, I didn't.
Yeah, I think it was already chambered when I got it. That's what I remember. I don't remember racking it at all that night.
Because the way this type of gun works is that you have to have a magazine with ammo in it. You have to insert the magazine into the gun, and then you have to rack it.
Look at how he's holding his hand. Dumb no gun handling idiot.
To load one of those
It's called charging the hand, pulling the charging handle back. Dipshit, Mr. Know-it-all.
rounds into the chamber, correct?
Yes.
And you were familiar with how to do all of that, correct?
Yes.
And it can't discharge a bullet unless a bullet is racked into the chamber, correct?
Correct.
And so your testimony here, as best you can recall, is that you never had to...
Objection, Your Honor. Asked and answered. He already asked that. Why do you keep letting him reprobe so he can try and get something different? You freaking defense attorneys are sitting on your ass.
do the initial racking because the bullet was already in the chamber when you took possession of it that day. Is that fair to say?
I believe so. I believe that it was already racked.
And the ammunition that was in that was full metal jacket ammunition, correct?
223 full metal jacket.
223 being the caliber.
Yes.
And full metal jacket being the type of casing, correct?
Yes. Full metal jacket is the bullet type.
The bullet type. Okay, I apologize. And you're aware
Oh, I'm sure you do.
there are different types of bullets, like hollow point bullets, correct?
Yes. Yes.
And when you were in the process of purchasing,
He's being really good about not looking like he was kind of attacking and a dick to other witnesses. And he's being really good not to turn a jury off that he's attacking this young kid. I'll give him props for that. He is being very calm and acting very nice, even though he's trying to screw this kid every chance he gets. He's being very nice and polite and easy, so the jury can't say that the DA beat up this young kid.
purchasing this gun, well, let me back up. When you were in the process of purchasing this gun, well, let me back up for a second. You said that the 30 rounds of ammo were left over from previous. I assume you mean when you were up in Ladysmith?
Yes.
And you were practicing with the gun up there?
Yes.
And Dominic Black's family has some sort of firing range or shooting range up there, is that right?
They have a gravel pit where it's safe to shoot.
And you and Dominic would practice with your AR-15s shooting at targets in that gravel pit, correct?
Correct.
And you would shoot at targets as far as, what, 75 yards away?
No.
How close were the targets?
I think the furthest I ever got was maybe from me to the TV.
Okay, so I'm at 1 hour and 4 minutes. I'm going to let this finish out because it looks like they've got 8 or 9 minutes. He's going to drag this out so he gets a second bite tomorrow. Bad tactical planning on the defense.
You didn't shoot at any targets farther away than that?
No.
Dominic Black testified that he shot at targets 75 yards away. Did you see him do that?
I didn't, but I don't know what Dominic Black saw or what Dominic Black was shooting at. I wasn't with him when he did that.
But you were aware of the fact that the AR-15 was capable of hitting targets much further away than you to the TV, correct?
I believe so.
Did you know the capabilities of your own weapon?
I knew that it could shoot, and I believe from a distance. I don't know how far. I'm not an expert on AR-15s.
Good answer.
Did you personally purchase that .223 full metal jacket ammunition?
I did not.
Who did?
Dominic did.
Did you ask him to purchase it?
I did not.
Fishing.
So you didn't know what type of ammo was in that gun. Is that right?
I knew they were 223 full metal jackets. The first time I shot it, I had to load it into the magazine.
So you knew the type of round, but you didn't know what those rounds were capable of doing. Is that fair to say?
So now he's trying to say his irresponsible actions. He's a kid. He's driving without a license. And now he's arming himself with a gun that he doesn't even know can kill. He walks out to a mob to protect property, and now he ends up killing somebody all through his negligent actions that led up to this. That's where he's going.
Believe a bullet's a bullet.
As you sit here today, you know that there are different types of bullets, right?
Yes.
You know that hollow point bullets, for example, do different things to a animal or a human than full metal jacket bullets, correct?
Yeah. Full metal jacket is like a defense round, like another type of defense round. I know people use full metal jacket for hunting, and hollow point is something that causes more damage.
Hollow point bullets are designed to...
Your Honor, my client's not an expert. He already said he's not an expert. Why does he keep going into this line of questioning? Move on. Man, this defense is just...
hit the animal that they're being shot at, let's say a deer, for example, and explode inside that body, correct?
No, I don't think so.
When you say explode, are you saying expand or explode? Because there are such things as exploding bullets.
Sure. Let me rephrase. Mr. Rittenhouse, what is your understanding of what a hollow point bullet would do if it were shot at, say, a deer?
See, he's already planted that it explodes, and now he's got the span, so now he's going to ask the question the way he should have asked it the first time before he implanted this visual image to the jury of this big explosion and tearing up. See, the jury heard that, and now he's going to ask the question like he should have if the defense would have held him feet to the fire.
I don't think people use hollow point.
That wasn't my question, sir. What is your understanding of what that bullet would do? Let me rephrase it then, because you're aware that people use hollow point bullets in their pistols to defend themselves against other people, correct?
Yes.
Ryan Balch, for example, testified in this trial that he was carrying a pistol loaded with hollow point ammunition for self-defense. Do you remember that testimony?
I do.
So what is your understanding, if you have one, as to what hollow point ammunition would do to a human?
I believe it would do the same thing as any other bullet. Like I said, a bullet's a...
See, he should stop there. Answer the question and don't try to elaborate. See, the way the DA is asking these questions, and he's open, and he's soft, and what do you believe? All he's trying to do is drag out comments so he can twist and use against you. When you're on a stand, less is more. Never volunteer or say more. Anybody that carries a gun needs to know this is what they do if you ever have to get on a stand.
bullet. I just believe hollow points... I'm sorry, I don't know much about ammo. I'm trying to think of what I remember, but I just don't know much about ammo.
So you didn't know the difference between what a full metal jacket bullet would
Your Honor, he's already answered. He doesn't know about ammo.
do versus a hollow point, right?
I believe a hollow point from I just don't know.
See, he's going to ask the question so many times that he feels like he has to answer, so he's going to start volunteering or making up shit, and that's going to give the DA another place to go. Ah.
So much about this. I believe a hollow point would cause more damage.
To the first target. But it wouldn't
Are you asking a
continue
question
through
or are you testifying? Your Honor, is he telling my client or is he asking a question?
any other targets, right?
I don't know the answer
Whereas
to
a
that.
full metal
Your Honor, he's interrupting my client, and my client's already testified he didn't know. Asked and answered. Come on, defense.
jacket bullet is specifically designed to continue through its first target and keep flying, correct?
Finally, I think he's going to say.
First of all, the hollow point is not guaranteed to stay in the first object struck, which is, so what you said was not correct. Secondly,
There's no testimony on that here.
Don't interrupt me. Correct him, Judge.
no, but you've been testifying, and that's what Mr. We're going to take a break for lunch. Please don't talk about the case.
Oh, they're breaking for lunch. This is the end of the video that I have. Did they not show the rest of it? Do you see the judge? I hope the judge chooses ass again. I gotta hang on.
Watch or listen to any account of the trial. We'll see you, let's hope, at about 12:45. Oh, I've got a couple of hearings at 12. Let's say 1 o'clock. I apologize for taking time away.
Is he gonna question him or chew him out? Get in his ass. Come on, Judge. Have some ass. Put a little salt and pepper on that ass and enjoy it. Okay, so at least they're breaking for lunch. That's good. Because the odds of him dragging this out for 4 more hours is odd. He's going to have a tough time. But they still get a break now, and they get to have all their people and everybody watching. There's probably the investigators. There's probably other investigators watching, calling, yo, dude, I was watching testimony. You got to tell the DA this. Yo, dude, because that's what happens. You've got all these people in government trying to get this kid. All right, we'll end that there.